You're watching The Pulse. Now, thousands of Ghanaians gathered at the forecourt of the State House for the National Prayer and Thanksgiving Service, a moment to give thanks to God and reflect on the country's journey. In his message, one of the most senior and influential Ghanaian in the Global Catholic Church, Peter Cardinal Appiah Texan, touched on the devastation caused by illegal mining, reminding the nation that the transformation of Ghana is not solely the responsibility of the president, but a collective duty for all citizens.
The Pra River doesn't sell prawns and shrimps anymore. Ofin River has become a puddle of mud. The Ankobra is already gone. Children in upstream who jump into waters that I used to do when I was a child, stream to swim, they then are taken to the hospital with ruptured scrotum because of exposure to cyanide and mercury. So the negativities are with us. Our church hospitals in the middle part of this country talk about increasing children born with deformities. So my dear friends, the external negativities are already with us. And it causes virtuous thinking to not simply look for personal gain and interest, but to think about Ghana as a nation. We need a real awakening sense of solidarity, fraternal solidarity, each one caring and each one feeling for the other. And in this sense of fraternity, we can face all situations. Facing all situations, then, we replan our journey. We set for ourselves new objectives and goals, and we do not yield to despair, rather embracing the values of our own past and the religions and faiths. We pursue and formulate the type of solutions and situations which best help us all achieve our common good. When in 2015, Ban Ki-moon stood at the United Nations to present the Sustainable Development Goals, he said that he was formulating a narrative that includes the integral development of every person. No person had to be left out of this project.
Now, representing the New Patriotic Party, Minority Leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin, together with other party executives, delivered a Bible message on behalf of the party.
A reading from the book of Timothy, and I'm reading from the New King James Version. Chapter 2-3. Pray for all men. Therefore, I exhort first of all that supplications, prayers, intercessions, and giving of thanks be made for all men, for kings and all who are in authority, that we may lead a quiet and peaceable life in all godliness and reverence. For this is good and acceptable in the sight of God our Savior. This is the word of the Lord.
Now, President Mahama, in his speech, stressed the importance of accountability in governance and in society, noting that it's essential for building a just and equitable nation.
Honest in our dealings, let us be generous in our compassion, and let us be upright in our conduct. We must hold those in authority, including myself, accountable to the highest standards of integrity and humility. Public office is not a privilege for personal gain. It is a sacred trust bestowed by the people and a responsibility to serve all, especially the most vulnerable of us. Even the office of the president, which by the grace of God I now hold, is not above the law. Leadership must be grounded in justice, in honesty, and a reverence of God. If we want a just Ghana, we must be just in leadership. A nation's greatness is not measured by the heights of its skyscrapers or the size of its budget, The values of its people are the true measure of a nation's greatness. The virtues of courage, of honesty, of discipline, of sacrifice, and compassion are what really measure the greatness of any nation. It is in these quiet strengths that the true power of our country, Ghana, resides. It is through these virtues that we will rise and prosper.
Now, founder and leader of Action Chapel, Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams, underscored the urgent need for a long-term national development plan to provide clear direction for the country. He also expressed confidence in President Mahama's leadership, stating his belief that the administration has the capacity to drive meaningful transformation in Ghana.
That every vicious cycle that has held this nation back in the years gone by is over. The cycle breaks in the name of Jesus. If you believe it, please put your hands together and shout yes. As I reflected, I realized that in the 50s and the 60s, Ghana was ahead of Singapore, Malaysia, South Korea, and even China. We were ahead of them. And I started meditating, and suddenly I said, why has the gold become dim or dark? What happened to us? This state of retrogression under the leadership of our president, John Dramani Mahama, must be reversed. I look forward in my lifetime to see a new Ghana, a Ghana where our sons and daughters will not line up in any embassy for visa to travel out of the shores of this country for greener pastures, but that our sons and our daughters will be born, raised, schooled, educated, and live and work and flourish and thrive within the borders of Ghana, and will only travel outside for vacation and holidays, but not to go and see greener pastures. Oh, that we will see that day come. And Mr. President, I know that you don't have too many years ahead of you like Singapore had. But Jesus fulfilled his mission in 3 years. The Bible said all things are possible to him that believes, and that with God nothing shall be impossible. And as a believer, it is also said that you can do all things, Mr. President, through Christ who strengthens you. So, Mr. President, within 3 years, make a difference. Impact this well. Change the narrative of Ghana. Let the city thrive under your leadership. Let the city flourish under your leadership. Let things get better and better and better under your leadership like never before.
But how can political parties ensure that their manifestos align with the broader national development goals of the country? Now, joining me via Zoom is the Deputy General Secretary, Mustafa Bandi, of course, for the NDC, and as well for the CPP, Kwame Botiu of the CPP as well. He's a Deputy General Secretary. Thank you for joining us, gentlemen. I'm certain that you have been, well, of course, I'm also joined by Haruna Mohammed of the NPP. Haruna, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today. I'll start with you. I will start with you, but first of all, how are you feeling about today's National Day of Prayer and Thanksgiving? Haruna, if you can hear me, kindly unmute. We'll try and connect with the political parties, of course, to understand whether or not what Archbishop mentioned today when he was leading that prayer as to how they are going to be aligning their manifestos to fit in the broader picture. I'll start with the NPP's Haruna Mohammed. Haruna, thank you for joining us today on the polls. How are you feeling about today's National Day of Prayer and Thanksgiving?
National Day of Prayer. God, it is good you appreciate God because every God makes us possible for everything. So it is good to thank God. So I cannot belittle the thousands of people take the thank. So I think that God is appreciated in all that we have achieved in Ghana.
I mean, is this something the NPP would have anticipated in any way if he had power?
Nobody will drive away the appreciation of God. Our very existence is anchored on the powers of the Lord. And whatever we do, even this discussion we are having is anchored on the powers of the Lord. If we were to be in Awudome or Osu Cemetery, I don't think that we would have been conducting this interview. So it is always good, no matter what, even in difficulties, you have to thank God. However, if you look at politicking, if you read very carefully what is happening today and the rationale behind the this National Day of Prayer, this is something that has been anticipated for a longer time. We all know that by 1st of July, VAT will be increased by 21.9%. We all know. By 1st of July, fuel will be increased. We also know that by 1st of July, 2.45% increment in electricity tariffs will also take effect. We also know that prices of all local manufactured plastic products is going to be increased by 7%, which is also 1st July. So as smart politicians, we use the National Day of Prayer, which all of us has bought in, to cover up the discussion. Today, you see that we are not discussing these matters. We are rather discussing the National Day of Prayer. But this is what Ghanaians will go through, the sufferings that the people of Ghana will go through. What we have been confronted with is being covered with the prayer. We will pray to God, but we will also remind ourselves and let the people know, after the prayer, this is what we have been put under by a government that said that they were going to reset, and they are making things very difficult for us under these particular circumstances.
Let me stay with you.
So the 24 hours that they have put us through, they had to go to take a money, they are budgeting money that is more than the IMF loan we took, 4 billion, more than the IMF loan that they are asking, which is not incorporated in the 2024 and 2025 budget. So these are people that we have to be very careful. And what we have to do is to pray to God to reset the resetters so that Ghana can get back on its feet, so that better things can be done for us and not this excruciating difficulties that is put on the people of Ghana on a Republic Day.
Okay, stay with me, Haruna. Let me bring in Mustafa Bandi. Mustafa Bandi, Haruna believes that this is just a cover-up, of course, because you do not want Ghanaians to talk about the very taxes which you're going to be introducing, or by now you've already introduced. He thinks that is a cover-up. What would you say to this?
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to our terrorist listeners. And I think that one aspect that I need to quote is that we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. And I'll add to say, when the righteous lead, the people rejoice. Today is a manifestation of a great day in our life, where we have laid a solid foundation for national consensus through the renewal of the mind. That begins our development process. You cannot develop if you don't renew your mind. The Bible says that we should not conform to the things of this world, but we should be transformed and be righteous in everything that we do. Today is a day of prayer. I have seen the MPP, I have seen the NDC, I have seen all people from all walks of life. It's for us to come together to build national consciousness, a reflection of what to do and what not to do begins today. And so I am happy that this foundation is laid. I've heard the Archbishop talk about political manifestos and national development agenda. there is no national development agenda better than what has happened today, where politicians, civil servants, and all people, persons, including journalists, we have converged as a country to ply our hearts to God, to ask for more wisdom, to ask for more knowledge, to ask for more direction in terms of what to do and what not to do. It's a national development agenda. To the politics of him, National Prayer and Thanksgiving Day doesn't sacrifice responsibility. It's not a substitute for national responsibility. In the past, we have remembered a bunch of old men who have paraded themselves, led by President Akufo-Addo. They have tried to build a cathedral, but that led us to fraudulency because they didn't have national responsibility. Today, young President John Dramani Mahama have brought all persons for us to pray to God. Good things would happen. Our quest is to ensure or to expect that all Ghanaians will see the dividends of solid and good governance, that all Ghanaians will have to live in peace, that all Ghanaians would have food on their table. This is a rare resetting of this country from the calamities inflicted upon us by President Akufo-Addo and his gang, supported by the MPP and Haruna Mohammed himself, that in the last 8 years up to December, the calamities of a government that was corrupt, the calamities of a government that left the people in poverty is a thing of the past, and that today we are renewing our mind, we are refreshing our hearts, we are applying our hearts to God for more direction, deeper understanding, for knowledge, for national consensus, and I think that it's a good day and a great day for the NDC and the people of Ghana that will continue to pray. Okay. That His Excellency the President will live in long life and will live in good life with a renewal of the mind, with wisdom and guidance by God to do that which will help a Ghanaian child, to do that which will salvage a Ghanaian youth, to do that which will develop this country for all of us. Okay, Mustafa, stay with me. When I come to you, my question though, because I want to go to Kwame to also take his reaction on today and what he thinks and how significant it is. But when I come to you, which I want you to be thinking about would be prayer. Many have said prayer, yes, but Thanksgiving, what are we thankful for? I'll come to you for that. But Kwame, what's your reaction basically about today and how you think that is going to help us as a country?
Good afternoon to you and your cherished viewers and listeners. I have observed today's proceedings. Unfortunately, I couldn't go. Other members of the CPP were there. And I want to start by saying, or some people, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah once said that, and I quote, "Let us all remember, nothing in the world can be done unless it has the support of God." So the founder of the country and the founder of the CPP himself knew that Ghana could not get anywhere without the help of God. And I also listened to the wonderful rendition by His Eminence Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams, and especially the end where he said that he looks forward to a Ghana where within 3 years of His Excellency's reign, every man will be able to feed his family and his children, and none of us will be able to, will have to travel outside except for holidays. It falls in line with the word of God. That's why we are having prayer and thanksgiving. If you look at 1 Kings 4:25, it says that in the days of Solomon, every man had his own house and his own garden. So we can see that in history, whether biblical history or ordinary history, there have been periods where you have had whole nations where everybody was prosperous. It is entirely possible. We have seen how far China has come. And we also know that when it comes to development plans, the Osadifo-led CPP government in the 50s and 60s, which His Eminence, the Archbishop alluded to, had a 7-year development plan. So having a development plan is not new in this country. And even in our 1992 Constitution, we have what we call the direct principles of state policy, which is in Chapter 6 of the 1992 Constitution. And it covers about 5 thematic areas, including fundamental human rights, which is number 1, economic development, which is number 2, access to services, which is number 3, environmental protection, which is number 4, and social order, which is number 5. So our 1992 Constitution has the directions within which the country should move. And even if you take an example, the economic development speaks of managing the economy to promote growth, social justice, and well-being for all citizens, not some citizens. However, the shortfall of this directive principle of state policy is that it is not justiciable, which means that if there's any shortfall by the government in following these directives, you cannot take them on except at the ballot box.
Yeah.
And we need more than that. So the Archbishop's call is timely. We need to go beyond. We have a 7-year development plan which told us for some time. We can also have a 100-year development plan, which can also be codified in the Constitution. I think it's time that we reviewed the Constitution and put exactly where the country wants to go in the Constitution and make the directive principles of state policy justiciable, which means that if any government falls short, there could be some sanctions that could be taken against the government, whether a surcharge, whether it is maybe withholding salary. We need something more than just the ballot box. Of course, it should be constitutional. It should not nothing unconstitutional. But we need something that will pull the parties to their work. If you look at the CPP Constitution, we have always gone according to the development agenda of the country, especially since we are the authors of the first development agenda, which is the directive principles, the 7-year development plan, which I think was somewhere in 1963. So I agree with the call by His Eminence.
Okay.
And that we should even go further to make the directive principles justiciable and include further directives in the Constitution. And then as a collective, the whole country will come together and decide for ourselves where we want to be within the next 100 years.
Okay.
And stick to it.
Okay. Stay with me, Kwame. Back to you, Mustafa. Before we get into the call by the Archbishop and we'll discuss further the National Development Plan, which we know that already exists, at least from 2018, we know that there was a plan that's over 40 years. And I'll come to that. But many have said that, yes, prayer, but thankful for what?
Yeah, so are we not thankful that we have come out of a very peaceful election when other countries have not? Are we not thankful that 7 months ago, the cedi to dollar was 17? Today it is 10. Whatever it is, by God's grace, we have come this far. Are we not thankful that even when we have terrorism and other attacks within the sub-region, Ghana continued to be a beacon of our democracy in West Africa, continued to be a very peaceful country where we have harmonious coexistence even though we disagree politically? Are we not thankful that by the grace of God, Ghana is on a platform of development and resetting where today corruption is being fought at hard on? There's a national consensus on that. Today, the country is growing. There's a national awareness of that. In the last 7 years of President Mahama's regime, we have done what other people could not do for 8 years. 8 years they couldn't do. Even in this conversation, when all of us continue to renew our mind in Christ, you saw my other colleague from the MPP. It is politics as usual. For them, it's about vote and numbers. It is never about wisdom. It is never about the fear of God. It is never about the people. For President Mahama, even in our situation, we continue to thank God that we are alive as a nation, hoping that God will continue to bless us for us to grow more. No president can leave any better legacy than a president who, unites the nation around the legacy of God, where we ply our heart to be lifted by God. With God, nothing is impossible. And when God is with you, nobody can fight with you. And that is what we are thanking God for. We are thanking God for peace. Today, you have had to finish your work and go and sleep in peace. Nobody will come and kill you in your house. Today, There's national consciousness about our identity as a Ghanaian, where we believe that all of us as a country will have to look for the best kind of governance, rally around ourselves for national growth. And I think that that is what we are thanking Ghana for.
Okay, you'll still stay with me, and then I'll go to Haruna. But when I come to you, we'll discuss the call by the Archbishop Duncan Williams saying that we must have a national plan. Now, I quickly had to search and know that, well, there exists a certain national plan which was launched in 2018 and projected to plan for 40 years. I know that you were a government that had your manifesto. Now, in that manifesto, you have your policies, you have your plans of how you want to take this country. But when I come to you, want to tell me how this call by the Archbishop will sit in the current policies that you have, and even thereby sitting in the 40-year plan, which we already have as a country. But let me come to you, Haruna. Again, many have said that, well, the countries that celebrate Thanksgiving, such as the America, Canada, and all of that, it is worth. Mustafa thinks that at least be thankful that today, by the end of this interview, you'd go home and have a peaceful sleep. At least we have come out from a peaceful election, so it is worth it. And for you, it's just politics as usual. When you're answering that, please bring my mind to the fact that the 40-year plan, which was launched in 2018, will be under your era. Moving forward, are you going to be constituting some of the plans in your manifesto? Haruna.
Thank you very much. I would want to remind my brother that National Day of Prayer, this is not the first time it's happening in Ghana. On the 25th of March, 2020, His Excellency Akufo-Addo declared 25th of March as National Day of Prayer and Fasting. And this was done across the length and breadth of Ghana. We thanked God, we prayed to God. Over a befallen pandemic, we had that. If my memory will set me right, and he too, he will remember, at the Independence Square, Aglo for Ghana, and other national prayer warriors. We have done that before. We have prayed to God. We appreciated God. So this is not the first time that a sitting president is declaring the day for a national prayer or national prayer to thank God. Akufo-Addo did thank God on the 25th of March. In addition to that, we floated to thank and appreciate God and to ask for God's guidance in all that we did. Even we, as a party, in our thank you talk, we quoted 1 Thessalonians, and which says that we need to thank God and appreciate the work of God. The Quran is very definitive on appreciation of God, and we have thanked God. That is why we, as a political party, we were present at the prayer. We were there on the 25th. When we declared the National Day of Prayer, the NDC did not appear there. They didn't come to thank God and to pray to God. But we were there. I was there. The national organizer was there. The COVID. No, I just want to set that parameter. I just want to set that parameters right. Again, he's talking about we have been able to go through a peaceful election. He should have been clapping for us. If we were to put on that same behavior they put on in the elections, Ghana would have been in the dungeons. If we were to put the same posture across, facing the NDC, with that kind of hooliganism they did in the elections, Ghana would have not been peaceful. He's talking about peace. In his own region, OT region, people cannot sleep. They are killing them here and there, day in and day night. They are killing people. They have put curfew. Tribes cannot move. Some people have been belittled to like they are not Ghanaians in their own land. He's talking about peace. Boko has escalated. Peace does not exist in that place. He's talking about CD to dollar. Rent has not changed. Food has not changed. Cement prices has not changed. Please, Ghana's democracy is deteriorating. Our parliamentary business has been reduced and our ranking has come down up to 137th out of 168. We should be worried. Why is it so? Because an NDC has an absolute majority. when you want to situate these things, we must be very careful. Nobody disputes the thankful of God, but he himself knows down from his heart that the NDC has contributed very little in this very small time that they have come to what is currently happening in this country. He himself knows. Today, he's talking about we can talk and go and sleep. Hanan is sleeping in the cells. His wife has just been released yesterday in the night. Kofi Juma, the rest of other people, Edu Boahin and Co., they are in cells. Day in, day out. They move in, they arrest people with impunity. They use bail conditions as a form of punishment, which is not regulated by law. Please, let us be very, very factual and let the people know that your reset is to persecute. And that is what you are doing. It has nothing to do with thanking God. You have failed. You are asking for 4 billion, which is more than IMF conditionality loan that we went for. 4 billion for no infrastructure, no tangible project, something called 24-hour economy, that you are going to have one job, 3 people performing. You have come, you have even dismissed the 1 person, and you have not even recruited the 2 people to it. You only replace them. In human resource management, we call it job rotation. You cannot do that and tell us that we should give you 4 billion to do it. So for me, I'm very clear in my mind. I will thank God. We will participate in nation building. And I believe that the discussion should focus on the life, the standard of living of the Ghanaian citizens. You cannot impoverish us and go ahead to tell us that we should say when it is cow, we should say when it is sheep, we should say it's a cow. It cannot. If it is black, we should say it is white. We cannot, because the NPP has positioned themselves very well in our democratic dispensation, and we will do nothing that will affect the democracy that we are enjoying. And that is why peace is in existence.
By Archbishop, especially for a national plan. And I reference the national plan because I recall that in 2018, we launched a national plan. And moving forward, it's the NPP that started their trot to 2028 elections. Are you looking at this in a broader picture? And does this mean anything to you at all as a party?
I think that the development of Ghana is paramount. All of us as political parties, our interest is to develop Ghana. The difference is that the road to the development, that we all have different ideas and routes to get to the final destination. So when it comes to development matters, for me, who has worked through the development chain, where we develop the community action plans, move to the area level plans, which feeds into the district development plans, and then the district development plans is harmonized to give us the national development plans. I believe that development should emanate from the people. The people should be defining critical issues that concern them, either by ranking them and get them into the national perspective. Calling for this is a very good direction, but to achieve that needs a consensus and dialogue amongst various stakeholders and political parties. We must be very genuine to ensure that such actions that we are going to take will be in tandem with our vision, and that is the use of our manifestos. So we need to collectively, as political parties and stakeholders, look at this particular critical matter and make sure that we don't have a development cut where when a government leaves and another government comes, some development projects will be stalled because it does not fit into their national development plan. I believe that this has to be achieved through consensus and dialogue, where all stakeholders will have to engage themselves genuinely to get this done for our motherland, Ghana.
If I have Mustafa with me, Mustafa, so tell me, do you see a certain level of disconnect between parties, their manifestos, and the national plan that already exists?
So before I go there, let me just rebut my brother a bit. He's talked about 2 conflicts happening in this country and blaming the NDC for it, one in Boku and one in Nkwanta. The Boku one is happening at the backyard of his flag bearer, former flag bearer, Dr. Mahmoud Bahamia. the Nkwanta conflict is an inherited conflict. If you recall, as soon as President Mahama came into government and was sworn in, one of the first out visits of the National Security Coordinator was in Nkwanta to try and find lasting solution to the issues. And so all of these conflicts on the record are inherited conflicts. One is not blaming MPP for it. One is not blaming that as part of Akufo-Addo's incompetence, but we say that there are issues that government will take on responsibly. Now, I don't see too much of a disconnect between political party manifestos and our national agenda. It is just much of functionability of institutions of state, where we must find institutions and individuals in the public space working towards achieving national consensus, proper implementation of government policies, and ensuring that government policies are geared towards benefiting the people as intended. Look, President Akufo-Addo and his regime initiated the One Village, One Dam. On the records of national agenda, it was a good policy, but it was implemented by people who themselves were not committed to the implementation. Money was their agenda. You talked about one district, one factory, a very good development policy that will make sure that we're able to build our local industries. Again, for them, it was a Ponzi scheme to chop the money and leave Ghanaians, wondering. They brought planting for food and jobs. There is no better policy than planting for food and jobs. You know the outcome. It was about them chopping money. Today we are here. President Mahama have committed to continuing a good policy such as Agenda 111 hospitals. We would ensure that they are committed. He said it, and they are evaluating where all these projects are located so far. Unlike them, when we build schools, they came and they abandoned those schools in the bushes until we are back to power again. And so it is not a disconnect matter. It's a challenge of ensuring that government continues government's agenda. President Mahama have initiated a big push, and the big push policy, as you are aware, is to ensure that all uncompleted infrastructure projects started in the country will be completed. And for me, that is where the national agenda have always been gearing towards, where we are able to complete and to make sure that government investments are properly completed. It is also about the style of leadership. If the leader is vindictive, sectorial, tribalistic, like we have experienced in the last 8 years led by President Akufo-Addo, who himself and his brothers couched a document called Ajapadia to defraud the people of Ghana, supported by the MPP. It's still fresh in our memories that wasn't part of national development agenda. That wasn't part of the MPP manifesto, but this was the intent of a vicious president backed by a very corrupt political party who do not have the will to develop this country but to enrich themselves. And he talked about national development agenda and arresting people. The arrest I've always talked about, we are going into step 2, the upper part of it, where bigger issues will be dealt with. When we are talking about national agenda and development, it doesn't sacrifice accountability issues. Today, we are bringing people to accountability to the highest level because it has to be deterrent. People should not go back and do what is not done. We should not allow what has happened in President Akufo-Addo's regime to repeat in a 10% or even more 11%. And that is what national development agenda is. And for me, I'm happy that these days, what these prayer platforms have been in itself is a wake-up call to all Ghanaians for national consensus. And for me, that is the beginning of our national development planning manifestation.
I mean, beyond the concerns that you have raised, and especially in implementing the NPP's policies, let's talk about yours as well, because apart from the NPP and some other political parties, economists have also raised concerns about one major or flagship policy that you have been championing, which Gazitano actually addressed the media yesterday. the launch as well today. Now, where they're asking the question, why rotation? Where is the demand for you to want to be supplying? Do you have the infrastructure ready? Do you have the variables and the things that you need economically to be able to implement this policy? Wouldn't there now be another flaw again, because you're acknowledging some of the things that they did wrong, and yet we're introducing one, especially with how much you need to implement the policy in the 5 years and how much you've made available as your seed fund, which economists say that is woefully inadequate. What would you say to this?
Well, the current generation understands the essence of 24-hour economy. In the last 1 week, I've been at a port where they were doing a simulation exercise of the 24-hour economy. And I think that clients were very happy that as soon as you get your containers to the port, services of the port will be available for 24 hours so that you can get your goods out. In fact, the demand is so high to the extent that traffic will reduce at the port. Number two, if you look at places such as hospitals, where treatment is a lifeline and existence of every human being, you have patients who are in the hospitals and they are not getting treatment. If we have had to run 24-hour economy in the hospitals, increase, the number of nurses and doctors, increase infrastructure such as lighting and equipment, so that a patient does not have to lie down for a day or two in order to get attended to, but because of running of shift and 24-hour economy, people will get treated and discharged so that we can save their life. And for me, it's a restructuring of the time period within which we work. We all know the difficulties, the constraints of the 8 hours that we serve the public. There are instances where even by the time that you leave your house and get to workplace, because of traffic and other distractions, 3-4 hours is already gone. And so if we serve the public 24 hours, you will see that productivity will be very high. And in as much as we have shortages and low demand in some parts of the sectors of the economy, we also have high demand in other parts of the economy, like manufacturing, the few industries that we have. If government is able to support them with the incentives and infrastructure to run 24-hour economy and within their cycle, you would realize that even in construction, the completion stages will be faster than if they were working from morning to evening and close. If you go to China, or Chinese typically, when they take your contract, they work absolutely 24 hours. They work in the night and day. So within a very short time, they are able to complete your work. If you go to even the private sector, such as mechanic shops, welding shops, and etc., where vehicles are parked in shops, and because of traffic, one will require a week or two to get their vehicles repaired because of 24-hour economy, which have already even been started in magazine. During our campaign, you recall a number of people who spoke from Kumasi that they have even started a 24-hour economy because they believe that it is good for them. Once you have light, your workers are at your workshop, you will repair your car the following morning, you have to just come and take your car and go. So yes, it will be challenging to implement this overhaul and this restructuring of our time services. But I believe that this is not a policy that will be flawed. Even when you do all of this and people are in town, even in terms of radio and TV, we'll not have a situation where between the hours of, say, 11 and 4 a.m., nothing commercial is running on TV or radio. But because people are at business, an additional journalist will have to be employed on Joy News to be able to do something commercial within that period. It brings money to the table, it brings employment to the table, and it solves society problems.
I see.
This is not one of the policies that will fail.
Okay. Mustafa, stay with me. I want to bring in Kwame. When I come to you, because you talk about arrest, and especially on the topic of accountability, you want to let me in on the bigger ones which you say we are going to be hearing. I want to hear that from you. But Kwame, you talk about something very important that has my attention. You mentioned for continuity. You also mentioned that part of these plans, if they are not codified, we are unable to get accountability. Do you see such as that? Because I asked the two political parties, do they see any disconnect between their manifestos and then the national plan, especially the one that we have already? There's not an emphatic no or yes, but you seem to toe the line that let there be a certain form of accountability. For these plans that the Archbishop is drawing all of us our attention to, how can we get that link so that there's no disconnect?
Thank you, my sister. Regarding the disconnect, we can all see how when new parties come to power, they discontinue some of the projects of the previous party and start their own projects, and then another party comes in and does not do it. If you look at this disconnect, it can be codified. Yes, you can have it in the Constitution, as I said, because as it is now, regarding the directive principles of state policy, as I said, an individual cannot go to court and say that the government has refused to do this or has refused to do that. However, if you expand the powers of the citizenry under Chapter 6, then whenever a new party comes into power and does not continue what the previous party had started, or does not continue what we have in the development plan that we have, then any individual can go and then demand that some sanctions be taken against whoever is in charge of that sector on behalf of the government. We already have, I honestly forgot about the 2018 Vision 2057. Since we already have Vision 2057, I don't think we should do away with it as a sign of good faith of all the parties and as a sign of continuity.
Right.
We can take another look at it. And there are three key aspects. The one that I see as very important is flexibility. So we can go back to Vision 2057, which was put in place in 2018. And under the aspect of flexibility, we can expand it to make it 100 years. And then we can decide that we will attach it in a way to the Constitution.
Okay.
Every party will have to make its input. And if you depart from it, you can be taken on by the citizens.
Okay, thank you, Kwame. So, Mustafa, which one of the arrests are we about to hear, or which one is in the pipeline?
I just want to assure my brother Mohammed that the greatest disservice mentality is when an individual can be given a vehicle of $90,000 and he uses that vehicle during the period of his service. When a government changes, he buys that vehicle for himself at 4,900 Ghana cedis. Ask Mohammed if it is his father's company, will he allow it to be run the way they have run the Republic of Ghana?
Who are we talking about?
He knows Kofi Juma is the one I'm talking about, and that on a National Thanksgiving Day he's been arrested. Look, I think that there is a lot of charity that is being done to these people, but I'm thankful that under this regime, rule of law has been given fidelity, where the mechanisms the law stipulates have been allowed to run. I can give him the highest form of assurance that without shred of doubt, they should never dream that their noise would distract government from holding individuals who have utilized political platforms.
What do you describe as noise?
So the noise they are making, that it is persecution. Persecution of who? Persecution when we are living evidently with the corruption. We are living evidently with the way people have stolen the wealth of this nation, and they say it's persecution. The biggest ones are yet to begin, and I can assure him that no amount of noise will stop that if it has to happen. As for giving you the lead, I will leave it for now, but Mohammed should go and embrace themselves. That anyone who have dipped their hand into the consolidated fund, mismanaged it, and done wrong things will be brought to book. It doesn't matter what it takes. They will be brought to book. There's a need for renewal of the mind. National accountability is one of the things we have to renew our minds on. We cannot every day be giving corruption, lip services when we ourselves are corrupt.
Right.
President Mahama has promised that he will increase the standards to the extent that even if a new government comes, they can't lower the standards. That is the only way we can give development, growth. We can serve the people to the highest of their expectations, not what the MPP is doing.
Haruna, let me have your attention. So, of course, Mustafa says that it's just accountability and it's not persecution. Do you agree? Do I have Haruna with me? Haruna.
Has no yes, hello, I'm with you.
I can hear you. Thank you.
Yes, accountability has no expiry time. What they are pushing on to ensure that there is that form of accountability, they should also be preparing themselves that in the near future they will face the same mistake and they should not cry. I also want to put it to him that no amount of braggart intimidation will stop us from confronting national issues. We will do it. We will not fear them. We will say it as it is. They should remember there is a day they will leave government and this same meeting will be played to them, either in cool or in mix or with a rap on top of that. He's talking about inheriting conflict. Please, if you check on your other sister stations, in Contact Town, it's now a scene of desolation. There has been renewed ethnic clashes between the Adeles, the Charles, and the Achodis. There is so much. I want you to pick your cameras, get your reporters to the place. But mind you, get the IGP to get you a protection. We want this particular thing to be uncovered. What is he talking about? Boku crisis was not escalated as it is. You have just come because of politics. You have escalated the conflict in Boku. Today, good people in Boku who have become presidents, who have become ministers, are being killed. Houses are burned.
But Haruna, the Boku conflict that you just cited escalated even before the 2024 elections.
No, when they inherited the gold reserve, did they come to tell you? They sold them, they got enough money, they pump it into the system to shore up the city against the dollar. Did they tell you that? You inherited a conflict that has not been escalated, you escalate it, people are dying, people are leaving. No police officer will want to live in Boku as at now. I know a lot of police officers who have left. And they are reposted. Even the police depot was not left. Police officers were being attacked in vehicles in their houses. The police had to issue a statement that they should stop going to market in one person. They should go in groups. At the point, they have to provide them with armored cars to buy food, water. That is what we're talking about. And you're talking about 24-hour economy. Hey, my God, my goodness.
Well, on
a government that cannot keep light on for 8 hours.
On that, my goodness and my God knows, Haruna and Mustafa and Kwame, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today on the polls. You're watching the polls. Please stay with me this morning. You're watching the polls, and thank you for staying with us. Now, Principal of Jackson College of Education, Mr. Theodosia Jackson, has cautioned that the country's future will remain bleak unless Ghanaians pair their prayers with a genuine change in behavior. She expressed concerns over the persistent misuse of resources and social indiscipline, citing activities such as illegal mining, which you know as Galamsey, and urged citizens to embrace a transformation in character, while commending the government's decision to seek divine guidance in national leadership. Mrs. Jackson emphasized that spiritual commitment must be matched with practical efforts towards positive change for true national prosperity. Speaking during the college's Thanksgiving Today service, she further proposed that the day be observed quarterly or even monthly to reinforce national reflection and accountability.
Which is a laudable thing, Because I have said earlier on that even if Jesus himself comes down to preside over this country, and we, the members in the country, don't change our character, attitude, and behavior, Ghana will not change. So it's good that he has handed over the running of the country into the hands of the Almighty God. And that is a success. I'm assured that it's a hope for the nation. And I had the shock of my life. Beyond Dunkwa, miles and miles and miles, forest land, Galamsey, they've turned the soil upside down, and waterlogging areas. I said, wow, Ghana, this is the reason why we have been called to pray. It's not only affecting water bodies, but are we going to get food in the near future? The land on which we will cultivate has been destroyed. And I wonder who could go to such an environment to go and plant something and it will even grow. So it's a good idea. I saw on a clip on my phone when it threatened to rain in Accra last week or so. Many people coming out from their homes, dumping refuse in gutters. He said, "Oh my neighbor, if we were enemy." So it doesn't matter who is our president. If the illness in the nation, we don't change our character, behavior, and attitude in all spheres of life, we won't have a future. But if the awareness is drawn, if sincerely I have prayed, I don't think after the prayer, if I used to cheat, I should go and continue cheating. If I used to dump refuse in a gutter, I should go and continue to do that. So I just want to advise the president that we cannot pray once a year, 1st July, go and sleep till another year comes. The Bible says that we should pray without season. 1 Thessalonians 5:17, we should pray without season. It shows that this prayer initiative should not be a one-day wonder. It should be continued, if bi-monthly or every 3 months, so that at least we have it 4 times in the year.
A new poll by Global Info Analytics show that the majority of Ghanaians continue to believe that the country is headed in the right direction. According to the new survey, 70% of voters now believe the country is headed in the right direction, compared to 20% who believe it's headed in the wrong direction. Majority of voters in every region, except Ashanti, say the country is headed in the right direction. Head of Research and Pollstar at Global Info Analytics, Musa Dankwa, has been providing a breakdown of the findings.
We had online telephone poll that we sampled about 1,092 voters for our various handles online. And then we interviewed 1,457 people by telephone across all the regions.
Okay.
And then we deployed nearly 7,944 face-to-face in-field across 84 constituencies. And the combination of these outcomes is what we have given you today. There's no neutrality in expressing opinion. People have positions. You can either be NDC, MPP, floating voter, or other parties. There's no neutrality here. What we do is that you cannot take the survey twice online, and also the sample represents just about 10% and not big enough to alter the overall outcome of the 90%. Right, if you look at the telephone, the online said the margin of error online said it was 3.8%. When it comes to telephone poll, the margin of error was 3.3%. But in the face-to-face infill, the margin of error is 1.42%. When it comes to the direction of the country, a whole lot of things come into play. They look at the economy in general. They look at price of goods and services. They look at so many indicators and they arrive at that conclusion based on how they feel the country is headed. And I think this measure has been we've made this measure over a period of, say, 4 years now. And this is the highest we've seen this number over the last 4 years.
You're still watching the polls. Now, the People's National Party, PNP, has petitioned the Asante-Hene Otumfuo 22 to intervene in the recent suspension of Chief Justice Gertrude Torkornoo, led by its 2024 flag bearer, Janet Nabla. A PNP delegation visited the Maisha Palace to formally present a petition, appealing to the Asante-Hene to use his influence to urge President John Mahama to reverse the suspension. The party contends that the removal of the Chief Justice poses a serious threat to the independence of the judiciary and undermines the foundations of the country's democratic institutions. Now let's get to excerpts of that petition, which we'll just be showing to you on your screen shortly. And it reads, Your Royal Majesty, with great respect and humility, I write this petition as the chairperson and leader of the People's National Party, PNP, and as a concerned Ghanaian woman who cannot remain silent in the face of injustice, abuse of power, and the erosion of constitutional democracy in our beloved country. It continues to say this petition addresses the ongoing injustice and human rights violations against Her Ladyship Chief Justice Gertrude Araba Isaba Torkornoo, a woman of integrity, professionalism, and exceptional judicial record who has served Ghana for over 35 years with unwavering dedication. Her rise to the position of Chief Justice was not by favor, but by merit, built upon decades of competence and an unblemished character. Today, that same woman is being humiliated, persecuted, and cast aside not for any wrongdoing, but because of a dangerous political agenda led by the current president of the Republic, John Dramani Mahama. Now, during his political campaign, President Mahama publicly stated that President Akufo-Addo had packed the judiciary with NPP loyalists and that he would equalize it, with a quote there. He equalized it when elected. Unfortunately, upon taking office, his promise took the shape of a direct assault on the judiciary's independence. Chief Justice Torkornoo became the prime target of this politically motivated vengeance. Despite a lack of credible evidence or wrongdoing, President Mahama moved swiftly to suspend the Chief Justice. Shockingly, he appointed a known rival and critique of Justice Torkornoo, someone who has long eyed her position to chair the very committee investigating her. This act alone undermines every principle of natural justice and fairness. Now, the gross human rights violation, the treatment meted out to the Chief Justice since her suspension is nothing short of degrading. She is searched like a criminal before appearing before the committee. Her family is barred from accompanying her, denying her the emotional and moral support she deserves. The committee venue chosen revised painful personal trauma, as is the same place her uncle was tragically murdered. The court, once her professional home, have dismissed her applications about abuse and human rights violation, further isolating and victimizing her. This is not simply about Justice Torkornoo. It is an attack on every Ghanaian woman and on the rule of law. What has become of our democracy if service, competence, and integrity are punished this way? The silence on the conscience of the nation. Now, Your Majesty, as a revered traditional leader, you've always been the moral compass of Ghana long before we adopted democracy. Ghanaians look to you for justice, not just in the palace, but in the land. It is time for your voice to rise above the politics, to protect a woman who has given her life to uphold the very constitution that the president now threatens to tear apart. And we've got Janet Nabila, founder and leader of PNP, joining us via Zoom. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. So you have successfully petitioned the Asante-Hene. Tell me, what has been the response so far? Unfortunately, we've lost her, but we'll try and reconnect with her to understand how far this petition has gone, what kind of responses she has received so far, and the party or the delegation on her behalf, get to know how far she's willing to go with petitioning the notable persons of this land. And we've just been reading to you the content of it. She cites some of the things that the suspended Chief Justice herself has been addressing the media, and especially some we see in her affidavit some weeks ago. Now, we've got Janet Nabila back joining us on Zoom. Thank you for joining us today this afternoon. Please, let's let us know how the petition has been received so far?
I greet you and your viewers this afternoon. It was received well. It was received very, very well. The National House of Chiefs were also saying that we should have extended like a copy of the petition to them. But since we have given it to Otunfo, it will be discussed. You call them and then they will do the discussion on it. So it was well received and we were so happy because we never anticipated that they would receive us in that manner. When we got there, the chief of staff wasn't around. I think he's indisposed, but the secretary to Otunfo was there and he received that and took the petition, assured the press that he will give the petition to pass it through the necessary body. They even made me, they are even now trying to give me an appointment to come and meet Otunfo on one-on-one basis so that I can even talk more on the petition.
But why now? Why not yesterday? Why not last week? And why not immediately her suspension? Why now?
No, you know, when you send a petition to Otunfo, what they do is that they will look at the petition and give you a date that you will come in and then expatiate more on the petition. I think that is how they do their things.
Really is the time of your petitioning. Why are you petitioning Otunfo now? Why not yesterday? Why not last week? Why not immediately when she was suspended?
Okay. So when she was offended, we tried to look at other things. You know, we did a joint demonstration to which we sent a letter to the Jubilee House. We gave one to Parliament, and then we gave another one to the Supreme Court. But we realized that all these three institutions, it's like they are one.
They are one in what essence?
Look at what a woman who personally abused someone whom they search as if she's an armed robber. Anytime she's entering into a court, refuse to allow her to go into the committee sittings with any emotional support. When you look at Article 146, where has it written that the husband, maybe the daughter, someone shouldn't come and be with her just to give her emotional support? Where is it written? Nowhere. The venue itself is a questionable place because this is a place where her uncle was.
I'm not sure if it's the network, but we'll try again. Madam Nabila, can you hear me? Unfortunately, we may have lost her, but we'll try to reconnect with her if we have her. We'll get into the petition more, especially some of the concerns that they've raised in that petitioning. But let's bring you some health stories as the acting Ahafo Regional Director of the National Health Insurance Authority, George Mauli, has expressed satisfaction with the prompt payment of claims to healthcare providers, noting that it is helping to improve service delivery in the region. He made the remarks on Monday in Shidium during an engagement between the NHIA and the Regional Health Directorate's medical directors and other key stakeholders. Emmanuel Dujemfi has more in this report. Well, apologies, we'll bring you that a bit later, but still on health, the Ghana Medical Association is asking the Health Ministry and Ghana Health Service to intensify its fight against mpox and other related diseases by heightening public education and preventive measures. A statement by its president, Dr. Franz Rebo, and General Secretary, Dr. Richard Salome reads. I'll be reading to you as well on the screen shortly. Now, the statement comes at the time Ghana has recorded 40 new cases, bringing our cases count to 133. Now, the General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association, Dr. Richard Salame, has been throwing more light on the disease spread. You're watching The Pulse, and thank you for staying. Now, former Chief Executive Officer of CalBank, Frank Eddie Jr., has described the economic stewardship of former President Akufo-Addo and his Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta as a disaster. The renowned banker is blaming their performance for the outcome of the 2024 elections and the widespread suffering of Ghanaians. On PM Express on Monday, Mr. Eddie Jr. did not hold back when he was asked to assess Ofori-Atta's legacy.
Disaster, of course. Look, if it wasn't disastrous between him and the president, the people of Ghana wouldn't have voted the way they voted. It's not me saying. The verdict is captured in the results of the elections. It's as simple as that. You know, you do not run the economy where almost everybody is suffering, okay, and expect that the people will not object. And that's what the voters of this country did last year. I don't know what happened. I mean, I remember when he was appointed, I sent him a message congratulating him and urging him to do the best he could for this country and leave a legacy, you know. And that is what we all expected. We were all very hopeful. But subsequent events have betrayed that hope. You know, I don't think that the NPP government, in the last 4 years of their reign, did what they could have done. I think they could have done much better. I mean, to even think of the fact that I would take pensioners' money, that's dark. Why would you go after pensioners' money? It's one thing that people can never forgive Akufo-Addo and Ken Ofori-Atta for.
You lost money.
I lost money. Well, pensioners picketed. The former CJ came to picket with us, etc.
So you were also on the Sun. You were on the Sun picketing.
No, I didn't go. I didn't go to picket.
But those colleagues, pensioners of yours,
yeah,
did.
Those who were working the technical details behind the scene and those who were vociferous out front there, etc. You know, but I lost money in the Eurobond.
Yeah, you said those who lost money will never forgive Akufo-Addo and Ken. You have never forgiven them.
No, I will not. I will not, because I saw them live large.
You saw them live large?
Yes, they live large, you know, and so why do you want to live large at the expense of my pension? You understand me?
Yeah.
It's something that should not be trivialized at all. To have a cabinet meeting and decide that in solving the country's debt problems, I'm going to include pensioners. That's dark.
Now imagine starting university education and losing your sight 2 years later. For many, that would have marked the end of the road. But for Ephraim Aye Orakatete, he started afresh, overcame the odds, and made history, becoming the first student at the University of Ghana to graduate with a perfect final grade point average of 4.0. Emmanuel Jevenu has more in our Disabled series.
Joy like a river, joy like a river.
He dances not just to celebrate a degree, but also to mark a moment in history. The song on his lips is one of triumph and joy.
Even though we graduate as a group, each of us has a unique story of perseverance and achievement that deserves recognition. Joy like a river, joy like a river.
Meet Ephraim Aye Orakatete, a young man who defied the odds and made history at the University of Ghana. Today, he stands as a valedictorian. the first student to graduate with a perfect 4.0 FGPA in the history of the University of Ghana.
He's graduating on top of his cohorts and with a final grade point average of 4.0. We have checked our records, and at least for the last 10 years, possibly more, we are yet to find any student of this great university with a perfect score like Ephraim achieved.
I feel very excited that I've challenged myself to do something that hasn't been done in a way. So I'm very, very excited about it.
Give the Lord a dance. Magnify his name.
Ephraim has faced life's harshest trials, but he turned every obstacle into an opportunity. His visual impairment could have been a limitation, but for Ephraim, it was a reason to push even harder.
Let us remember these values that has brought us here today. That resilience will help us navigate challenges. Technology will empower us to innovate, and humanism will keep us grounded in our interactions with others.
At age 10, Ephraim's vision began to fade. By his second year at KNUST, where he studied painting and sculpture, his sight had deteriorated. It seemed like the end of the road.
I've always had issues with my sight, but it sort of worsened whilst I was in level 200 in KNUST. I followed up trying to see if I could get medical help, but there was a 50-50 chance. But I believe I see with my mind, because sometimes the things I tend to see, it's not there.
Determined to continue his education, Ephraim learns to use assistive technology. He later enrolled at the University of Ghana, where he embraced a new academic path in philosophy, archaeology, and political science.
Many of us were navigating the uncertainties of SHS, or found ourselves in a gap year, dreaming of university life. The dream for me was to one day shake the hands of the Vice Chancellor, a dream that is being realized today.
With support from family, friends, mentors, and the Office of Students with Special Needs, he turned every challenge into a stepping stone.
We really loved him. This is somebody who had a 4.0. I was just saying that in all my time at the university, I haven't heard of a student scoring a 4.0 FGPA. So that's really, really great. And it really just shows that with determination, with hard work, any student, regardless of your level of ability or otherwise, you can make it.
Since he had a problem, our prayer was that God should order his steps for him. And by God's grace, he has ordered his step up to this particular point. So we are very grateful to God, and we are so excited that God, through all these challenges, God has brought him this far.
As a student of philosophy and archaeology, Ephraim understands the depth of human struggle and triumph. But more than theory, he has lived it.
This might sound banal or normal, but I guess whichever state you are in, just be motivated and then still push for whatever you think you want to achieve or you imagine to achieve. Hoping to enter into law or do philosophy. I mean, a merge of both philosophy and law in a way.
From sight to no sight, hopelessness to hope, and from struggle to success, Ephraim Aye Orakatete has not just graduated, he has inspired an entire generation.
Congratulations once again, and may this road ahead of us, be as bright as the dreams we dare to dream. Thank you very much.
History has been made, and the future, it is only just beginning. Emmanuel Jivenu, Joy News, Legon.
For
4 more schools have secured their places in the 2025 National Science and Math Quiz, adding to the growing list of national qualifiers. In the Western region, St. Mary's boys delivered a strong showing to book their 3rd straight national appearance, while Fiasaman SHS advanced despite not winning their contest.
That you have a chance to win regional championship this year.
Yeah, we hope we will win it.
You hope?
Yeah, and we are going to win it.
You're sounding like you're not confident. Are you winning this or not?
Oh, we are winning that. Yeah, that science and national science. That science, math, quiz. Yeah, we are winning it. Charlie, we are taking. It's coming home, yeah.
St. Mary's Boys Senior High School. It's coming. Coming home. It's coming home.
Our Sacred Heights Senior High School has narrowly defeated host school Sunyani SHS to win the final contest of the Bono Regional Qualifiers and booked a spot in the 2025 National Science and Math Quiz National Championship. Our Sacred Heart SHS finished with 49 points, narrowly beating Sunyani SHS, the current zonal champions and the 2024 national quarterfinalists, who ended with 46 points after mounting a strong comeback.
We began our flourish and today my joy. I feel on them mountains and
right, that is sacred. So that is Sacred Senior High School. They have secured their qualification to the national championship. This is not their first time. This is their second time. Their first time was in 2015. This time around, they have defeated the host school, that's Sunyani Senior High School, who also have qualified for the nationals after also obtaining 40 points. You can see the energy from them. So we have the contestants here and we have some of the students here. They've really showed working. They are amassed over 46 points here. Let's engage some of the contestants. You give me your name and your name.
Cransecher Stanley.
How was it for you?
Well, in preparation, it wasn't easy. We had to learn over wide and then go for many trials and then go through many difficulties. But by the Lord's grace, we've been able to qualify.
When you had the draw and saw that you will be competing with Sunyani, who are going to host this tournament, you know, they've also have been at the national level for so many times. 2024, they just entered one, they were in the quarterfinals. So pairing with them, how was it for you?
Well, we know that by all means, everything is by God's grace. They qualify because God allows them to qualify. So if it's our turn, we are also going to qualify. So there was nothing to be scared of.
Oh, that's an interesting one. You are one of the right. Your name?
Sepaga Solomon.
Solomon, how was it for you?
It was fun, interesting, adventurous.
It was fun.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
What made it fun?
The toughness of it, the atmosphere, and other stuff.
So when things get difficult, that's where you enjoy.
Yes.
So when you saw Sunyani at the time you were leading, you led them throughout from round 1 to the final. How was it? How was it for you?
It was quite tough and disturbing. See, like you are leading, you have to maintain the lead. You'll be feeling anxious at that moment. So,
which of the runs stood out for you?
I think the round 1.
That's an interesting one. But we will be going for the finals, regional finals on Thursday. We have the likes of Brekum, Presby SHS there. We have Doma also being the Methodist Senior High Technical School. And you have Notre Dame who secured 78 points. So far the highest. As a matter of fact, the highest within your region. How do you feel competing with these schools?
Well, I have my God by me. So nothing is impossible. Everything is possible.
And this is how we wrap up today on The Pulse. I am Emefa Akosi Adeti. Thank you for watching. For more news, do log on to myjoyonline.com.